Money FM 89.3. Best of breakfast. Mind your business. Only on Money FM 89.3.
Yes, welcome to Mind Your Business with me, Audrey Seek. And today we talk about AI, which has quickly moved from being a futuristic buzzword to becoming one of the most talked about drivers of business today. And we see it everywhere, from chatbots answering customer queries to predictive analytics helping companies make better decisions. But here's the catch. For all of the hype and the huge investments, many leaders are still struggling to translate this into real returns. Well, according to our next guest, that's because today's AI is still pretty bounded. It does what you tell it to and doesn't go much further. Enter something new called Agentic AI. Instead of just assisting, it can act independently, pursue goals, and even uncover new opportunities humans may not have even thought of. So what does this shift mean for organizations, and how can business leaders harness it to stay competitive? To unpack this, we're joined by Sandeep Bhargava, Senior Vice President of Global Solutions and Services at Rackspace Technology. Good morning, Sandeep. It's great to have you on the show today.
Good morning.
Thank you so much for joining us. So let's look at this big picture first. You know, we're seeing businesses clearly experimenting with AI, not just in APAC, but globally as well. Most often in areas like the customer service chatbots, we have the workflow automation. But from your perspective, how are organizations actually using AI today, and where do you see the limitations of the current, more traditional approach to AI?
Yeah, so first of all, everybody, every employee, every person is actually starting to use AI in their personal lives. Whether it is just going on X and validating with Grok if something was right or not. So every human being is somewhere or the other is starting to use AI. And that is starting to have an implication in organizations because people are bringing that thought process to their companies and asking, how is my company going to be using AI? Right, that is slowly and organically happening, right? And what I see in every technological shift at the start, you have to make sure that people at the top are really familiar with that technology. Like they get hands-on experience, they get comfortable because they are the ones who are going to be in the driver's seat taking decisions. And when we look at today, the companies that are successful where they are making sure they're evangelizing about the technology at the highest levels. And that creates interest and excitement about the technology and the use of that technology. That then percolates down the organization. That's number one. And number two is then you marry it with the traditional approach of figuring out what will be the benefit in the quickest term, marrying it with the cost of doing that, right? So doing that cost-benefit analysis up front, finding the low-hanging fruits, executing on those low-hanging fruits, building on that success, that is where people who are seeing success are really getting ahead.
Yeah. So when you talk about these low-bearing fruit, some have described today's AI as powerful, yes, but ultimately still bounded. It follows instructions and doesn't really think outside the box yet. Do you agree with this assessment? And is this why many business leaders are struggling to translate AI pilots into real results?
To some extent, that is true, right? It is bounded. It actually acts on the instructions and prompts that you are giving it, and it answers in that particular model, right? And that's why when you scale it, the cost of that scaling is higher than the savings that people are getting. And that's where most people cannot figure out where the cost-benefit analysis is. Right?
Okay. So that brings us nicely to Agentic AI, which many are calling the next big leap. Of course, we're talking about it today. So for listeners who may not be as familiar, can you define what Agentic AI means in practical terms, and how is it different from the AI tools most companies are already using?
Agentic means to have agency, and to have agency means to be able to recognize the patterns and to be able to take actions. Right? That's what we humans do. We go, we look, when we're driving the car, we see the car turning right, we swerve, we take action. And we are learning from our experiences and then acting on those. And that's what Agentic AI is all about, right? So in simple terms, for simple layman, what it means is if you're going to Venice and you ask AI for recommendations, and AI would give you all the recommendations. And Agentic AI would then go and maybe book tickets based on your preferences, book you cruises, book you shows, and take that extra step that an AI would not be able to do.
Okay, that's a great way to describe it. But let's look at agentic AI and businesses now. Can you share any real world examples, maybe a company that's used agentic AI, not just to improve its efficiency, but to genuinely boost innovation, productivity, or even revenue growth?
Yeah. So some of the earliest use cases of agentic AI has been in customer experience, in employee experiences, as well as boosting productivity across the board. One of the good examples is, there are a lot of companies who are driven by queries. People want to ask questions. What's the status of my shipment? What's the status of my purchase orders? What's the status of my payments, of delivery, of how can I open or close bank accounts, right? And once AI came and once chatbots started becoming popular, a lot of those queries could be handled by chatbots. But still, to take the final action, people needed to talk to a human, right?
Right.
And with agentic AI, that last step is also being done by an AI, right? So if you are waiting for your PO, for your purchase order as a company, and you call your customer and said, hey, you wanted to buy some services from me, where's my purchase order? You talk to a chatbot, it will tell you, yep, your purchase order is on the way. Now, agentic AI would actually send you your purchase order. So you don't even have to talk to a human, or a human on the other side doesn't even need to take actions.
Okay.
And those kind of interactions are getting automated. That frees up people from doing these routine tasks to look through the databases and respond to those queries. And that improves both the customer experience, it improves employee experience, and improves, of course, productivity.
It sounds great, but let's talk about the cost of agentic AI versus the traditional AI that we know. Is it a lot more expensive for companies to harness this kind of AI?
So you can see the investments that are going in AI, right? The numbers are really huge, and most of that investments are going in compute, are going in data centers and building up the hardware stack, right? And of course, the costs of those systems are still higher. So to be able to use that technology, you are paying that technology to do work for you that you would have paid a human to do, right? And in each of these, you have to figure out, is the cost of that technology going to be as prohibitive? But you also have to keep in mind that technology cost invariably falls as mass adoption happens.
Right.
Right? And so you have to get ready. You have to be in these use cases, and knowing that these costs will exponentially go down as time goes by.
So Rackspace recently conducted a study which found some striking info. Business investment in AI jumped nearly 250% from last year to this year. But of course, money alone does not guarantee success of any kind. So from what you're seeing, what determines whether those investments actually scale and deliver impact?
Well, like I said, it starts with companies making sure that they are ready for, adopting AI, that they are ready to embrace the concept of AI at the highest levels, that they are putting in the right frameworks for being transparent, for being ethical, for being sustainable in their use of AI, right? They are making sure that cross-functional teams are governing what AI is doing and what the outcomes are happening, right? They are also looking at where are the quick and easy wins on which you can build success. You are not trying to solve every problem all at once. In my experience, talking to customers, there are lots of possibilities. And different stakeholders and companies are excited by what's in their area. Right? But the success comes when there are problems that touch majority of the businesses or business functions in an organization, and you can solve those problems. That's when the whole company starts to see benefits. And smart CIOs are figuring out with their business leaders what these problems are, solving one problem at a time and building on that journey one step at a time.
Yeah, you talked about being ready at the highest level. So when it comes to, the workforce, tech is only half the story. So what new skills will employees and leaders need to thrive in an environment where AI agents are acting with more autonomy?
Yeah, and it's interesting that our own learning has evolved over the last 9 months of what it means. Right? We thought AI would be AI, and then AI would get embedded in softwares, and then the agentic AI comes in, and then the platforms are getting developed. Right? So technology is one thing. The agility to be in resonance with the technological changes that are happening.
Yeah.
That second, so we as technology professionals, but also as business professionals, really have to keep an eye on how this technology is evolving.
Right.
Because the changes are coming literally every 3 months, right? So you have to experiment, you can't stand still, and yet you have to keep an eye on where all this is going. The third is you have to work with AI, right? So as employees and as co-workers, we'll have to have skills where we are employing AI to do the tasks, but we know that it is not going to be a completely foolproof technology. So how do we work with AI? How do we use them for work to get the best out of it? As an example, when I used to go meet customers 5 years ago, I would have my sales teams prepare a comprehensive deck about that customer, about that organization, and what they do. Today, all I do is I just use ChatGPT and find out in 15 minutes everything about the customer, the person that I'm meeting, and the company I'm meeting, and I'm ready. I don't need those decks prepared for me, right? And that means that I am starting to use AI, right? I as an individual have to be starting to use AI as a complementary skill, right? And as a co-worker, because it is a co-worker. It helped my task much easier.
Yeah. Okay. So you talked about some of the pitfalls, like, having to experiment, but also balance that with the ever-changing landscape that happens every 2-3 months. You've spoken to so many different customers. You've worked with so many different clients. What are the pitfalls you think that you've seen that leaders should watch out for? For instance, maybe overspending on infrastructure without a strategy or underestimating the workforce changes needed. What are some of the bigger mistakes you've seen being made?
I think the first mistake people make is that they think that their employees are not ready, and their employees are. Like I said, people are using AI and AI tools in their lives, right? So people are experimenting. So you have an organization or organizations who are anyways getting ready by themselves in using AI, right? You just have to harness it. The second thing is you have to make sure that you set up proper governance, because otherwise people are using AI in work, could accidentally leak your data.
Yeah.
Right? So you have to recognize people are using AI, right? You have to start figuring out how do you govern, how do you set up practices, best practices to govern all of that. And the third thing is, you will always be excited. The possibilities are endless, but there's always a cost attached to that possibility.
Oh, yeah.
So you have to really govern what is the cost and just bring it all back to what is the return I'm going to get in any particular investment. And just like you would look at any other investment decision, AI is no different. Yeah, it's hype. It's super excited. Everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
But ultimately, what's the value of my returns that I'm going to invest?
That's the big question, right? And before you go, I'm going to ask you to look in your crystal ball here, Sandeep. If today is all about early adoption, what does the next wave of AI look like? And how should, the CIOs and entrepreneurs tuning in now, how should they be planning their AI strategy now to prepare for 2026 and beyond?
So I would say, and it's kind of contrary, right? There's a lot of FOMO that is building up in the boardrooms and in the CIOs, right? But this technology is evolving and is here for the long run, right? It's not about what you can implement and show today. It is what you can, implement sustainably. How do you get your organization ready? How you, get the overall business case ready? How do you execute with all the other priorities? That is what is going to get you to win in the longer term, right? So don't get carried on by the hype. It is not something that you do it now and you will not be able to do it tomorrow, right? The benefits have to be incremental.
All right. Well, AI is shifting from being a tool that follows commands to agentic AI, systems that can act independently and uncover opportunities. Sandeep, thank you so much for your insights today. Really appreciate your time.
Thank you.
Thank you. That was Sandeep Bhargava, Senior Vice President of Global Solutions and Services at Rackspace Technology. Keep it here, Money FM 89.3.
To listen to more great interviews, download our podcasts at audio.sg or download the audio app. That's AWEDIO, audio at the App Store and Google Play.